For people who don't know me, my name is Michael Krause. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at Charter Solutions. What, uh, what I'm going to be talking about today is Quicksight in general. What is Quicksight? What does it do for you? I'm also going to talk about all the other analytics services that are available in AWS, more as kind of a backdrop for how Quicksight fits in. I'm not going to be going into in depth in any of those types of things. I hold three AWS certifications, including Architect Pro. I was very excited when they came out. I actually got an AWS certification the first year they offered them. So I've had to renew that one a couple of times now. Charter Solutions also is an advanced consulting partner with AWS. We do a lot of work primarily in the analytics related space. So helping companies move analytics workloads to Amazon Web Services, including things like setting up data lakes, data warehouses, data pipelines, machine learning processes, and all the visualizations as well. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk through what is an analytics value chain and how does AWS align with it. What is Amazon Quicksight? We're going to walk quickly through some usage scenarios, and with that, I'm going to be giving you some concepts of what costs look like for those scenarios for Amazon Quicksight and costs for competitors in that same space so that you've got a little bit of comparison. Any questions before I dive in? All right. I ask you to forgive me as I slip my glasses on and off. I'm not as young as I used to be. So let's start off by taking a look at the analytics value chain. And when you think about analytics, the real purpose of analytics is to take data that you've got in all kinds of different sources and be able to drive insights from that can have value impact to your business. The problem that you typically run into is those data are in all kinds of different places, and to really get the insights you want, you need to be able to bring that data together. You know, it's one thing to go into your financial system and look at your financials, but to understand how your sales and marketing efforts are impacting your financials, you need to be able to draw a line across all of that. So in order to get there, what you have to do is you have to ingest that data, pull it out of your source systems. You need to usually do some preparation or processing on that data. That could be anything from transformation, mapping of fields so that you've got some common types of things, to things like applying machine learning models and other heavier duty processing to derive new information from that. You also need to store that data and make it available for people to access or query. And then finally, you need tools and skills in which to analyze that data to derive the insights that can impact your business. When we look at Amazon Web Services and we start asking what's available there to support this value chain, we'll find that there's a lot of different things that can be applied in a lot of different ways. So with regard to ingestion, if you're dealing with streaming data, Amazon Kinesis, Firehose, Kinesis Streams are great tools for basically collecting in real-time data and sending it downstream for processing. AWS Glue is a service that incorporates, the way I like to, at least for ingestion and processing, describe it, is it's Apache Spark as a service in a lot of different ways. So if you're ever doing Apache Spark work, or if you need to just do some standard Python kind of processing of things, it's a fully set up tool for doing that and scheduling those things. You can also instantiate those things on demand. So you've got a lot of power in that. Another tool that we use quite a bit is AWS Data Migration Service, which is designed to kind of create a hands-off mechanism for synchronizing databases from on-premise databases or other cloud services or other databases within AWS into AWS. We have a number of customers who use that to regularly bring over data multiple times a day. With certain databases, it supports change data capture, so you can almost stream changes as it occurs. And then there are other tools like API Gateway and AWS Lambda that allows you to build things like REST interfaces that people can use to publish data into your ecosystem. Things like Simple Storage Service, which provides a mechanism for storing large amounts of data very inexpensively. And later we'll see there are tools that allow you to query that data directly. And Amazon Snowball. Amazon Snowball is interesting. It's an appliance that Amazon will ship to you. You can load data onto, send it back to Amazon, and they will load that into the cloud for you. So if you're taking a step into AWS as, for doing analytics, and you say, this is really great, But I've got 100 terabytes of data I need to move to AWS, and that's going to be really costly to try to push that through a small pipe on the internet. You can get Snowball appliances up to 100 terabytes each. You order one or two, bring them in, plug them in via fiber right into your network. They're ruggedized, they're encrypted, they're very well secured. Um, if you're dealing with exabytes, they'll send you a truck. They refer to that as Amazon Snowmobile. But they've got ways to move massive amounts of data in single steps to kind of see what you've got going. And then storage gateway is another mechanism that we've also seen used quite a bit. What it does is it basically exposes the simple storage service as a drive on your local network in a lot of ways. So we've got organizations who do that and literally drop files onto local shares. It automatically gets replicated up to AWS behind the scenes, and then we ingest it and process it from that side. So that's lots of different ways you can ingest. We've worked with companies on real-time work, batch work, occasional, kind of what I'll say is near real-time work, updating every 30 minutes and things like that. And what we found is that it's very fast to get things up and running. It's low cost to maintain it, and there's massive amounts of flexibility to be able to change and do things differently and try new things as you go forward.
What was Lambda? Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't kind of go into Lambda. So what Lambda is a mechanism that allows you to take code and run it on demand without any server infrastructure. So Java, Python, .NET, JavaScript, a number of different languages. What's nice is it's event-driven. So when an event happens in AWS, it can trigger in a Lambda, pass off that information about what happened, and then the Lambda can process it. Where we use it typically in the data world is in two or three places. One is if people are uploading files to Amazon S3, Simple Storage Service, we'll have an event that says a new file arrived. And that event can trigger a Lambda, which would be a piece of code that goes in, reads the file, does some processing, sticks the data in a database. Or triggers another process, might trigger an ETL process in an ETL tool or something like that. You can also use it with API Gateway, which I think is up there. API Gateway allows you to create a predefined REST interface that's secured, and you can back it with code in Amazon, in AWS Lambda. What's really cool about AWS Lambda is you pay per 100 milliseconds of runtime, and they typically run short. You don't have to deal with infrastructure, so if you've got one file come in, it fires up a Lambda. If you have a million files come in, you potentially could fire up to a million Lambdas and parallelize all of that effort and not have to manage any processes, any servers, any of that kind of stuff. So it takes a lot of that underlying maintenance and heavy lifting work off your hands. And you're going to see it show up in a couple of spots because we leverage it a lot. So processing, you're going to see a lot of the same things we've talked about as well. A lot of the same tools that we can use to reach out to other systems and grab data and pull them in are also a lot of the same tools that we can use to massage that data and put it into a database. So Kinesis, Glue, Lambda, a couple other things you're going to see here. EMR, Elastic MapReduce. How many people here are familiar with Hadoop? Okay, so Elastic MapReduce is Amazon's managed implementation of Hadoop. So you can go up, spin up a Hadoop cluster using a number of different distributions, run all kinds of different layers on top of that. So if you want to run Presto on top or Impala, Spark, etc., you can run all these tools on top of it, size the cluster up and down as you want. So you've got the full power of Hadoop in a much easier to use and manage interface. Lambda we talked about. SageMaker is Amazon's machine learning platform. So if you want to go out and take a look at a set of data, do some machine learning work on it, and then take those models that you build and deploy them, SageMaker is the tool set that allows you to do that. And we're starting to see customers as part of their data pipeline take a look and say, okay, I'm starting to build models. I have all this data coming in, especially in real-time scenarios, where I want to apply models to it and drive new data in the flow of process as it goes to the database. So we see that one used quite a bit. AWS Batch is really designed around longer running, large kind of batch jobs. We've set this up. Are you familiar? Anybody here familiar with Docker? No? So Docker is another mechanism for containerizing and abstracting your applications away from hardware and operating systems. AWS Batch basically allows you to run a predefined server, if you will, and pass in information to it. So a common one is, if you think about standard ETL tools like open source Pentaho or Informatica or things like that, you can actually have it automatically spin up a server, start a job, process the data, have it shut down the server, and be done with it. And AWS Batch takes care of all of that for you. So if you need heavy lifting, long-running process, Batch can handle that for you. And then Data Pipeline is a tool. It's been around for a while. We're actually, with all the new tools, seeing it used less and less, but it's still there, and we still use it occasionally. It's just a tool to help automate some kind of stepwise movement of data from S3 through an EMR cluster into a database, et cetera. But we're seeing some of the other tools like Glue and things like that start to come into that mix much more heavily these days. Storage and query. So interestingly enough, Glue keeps showing up over and over again. Glue plays a number of different roles. We've talked about it from a data processing kind of role. That's the Glue jobs, Glue ETL kind of stuff. But it also provides a role as a data catalog and a metadata catalog. So you can use Glue to reach out to all of your AWS databases, all your data in S3, data out in Elastic MapReduce, and you can use it as a catalog to catalog all your data across all those sources and make that information available to other tools like Amazon Redshift. Amazon Redshift is their kind of massively parallel data warehouse platform. Redshift is kind of your typical, if you want to compare it to the rest of the world, you can think Teradata, you can think those types of platforms. Fully hosted, fully managed, very inexpensive to operate, lots of flexibility in scaling up and scaling down. We have customers who run day-to-day like a 4-node cluster of Redshift because that's what they need to run all of their stuff. And they've got some big SQL jobs that do some pre-processing work. So at night, they'll actually scale it up to an 8 or 12-node cluster, run all those jobs, and scale it back down to a 4-node cluster again for the rest of the day. So they only pay for that excess capacity when they really need it. They also have, I don't have a specific item up here, an offering called Redshift Spectrum. What Spectrum does is it allows you access through Redshift into your data lake on AWS. So earlier we talked about having files on Amazon S3 and the ability to query that. Spectrum allows you to query that. So you can write SQL queries, connect up to Redshift, write a SQL query, and actually have it query the files sitting on S3. So if you think about data, a Redshift node, kind of the smallest node you can get costs about 25 cents an hour per node to run. That gives you 160 gig of storage per node on that particular type. So you can do the math on cost and storage. Amazon S3, I think in its most costly, is 2.3 cents per gigabyte per month to store data. And there's lots of ways we can reduce that cost. So if you're thinking, I've got a petabyte of data I need to store, and I need to be able to query this petabyte of data, but I don't do it all the time. I need to go out and explore it every once in a while. That's where tools like Redshift Spectrum and Athena up here, which are tools that allow you to query those data as files on S3. You pay on a per query basis, you pay $5 per terabyte of data scanned. We do a lot of things to compress and index that data on those files so that we can get that down to pennies as you're doing that work. But what's really nice, it allows you to tier the data. We'll talk about data tiering in a little bit as well. But you could have very large amounts of data that you don't do a lot with, but you need available for exploratory work occasionally, that you store out in a data lake, S3 using tools like Redshift Spectrum and Amazon Athena. You've got mid-tier. This is data I use on a regular basis. I want it all available. It has to be performant, but not super performant. That's where tools like Redshift come in, and Amazon Aurora, which is a implementation of MySQL and Postgres. Much more performant, much more managed. We pretty much use it all the time now whenever we need a regular transactional database. And then the tier 1 is in-memory storage. So when you need super fast response, there are a number of in-memory storage capabilities. With Quicksight, there's a tool called Spice, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that gets into that. RDS is the relational database service. I mentioned Aurora. RDS basically provides SQL Server, MariaDB, Oracle, Postgres, MySQL as a managed service for you. So you can see lots of things available there. And then finally, analysis. So most people, when they think analysis on AWS, immediately go to Quicksight. But our experience is Amazon Glue and Amazon SageMaker actually fit into that role quite often as well. So remember I said Amazon Glue, one of the things that you can do is you have access to an entire Spark cluster. So if you have data scientists who are used to going in and manipulating data in Python, you can actually in Glue set up what they call a developer endpoint, open up an environment, and you can go in and write and interactively write Python, interact with your code, chart, do all kinds of analysis, exploratory work right there if that's your world. SageMaker gives you access to a lot of the same tools, but a much richer set of machine learning capabilities with that. And then Amazon Quicksight, which is going to be the focus of the rest of this deck, really gets into data visualization, dashboarding. So where the first two are really kind of geared more towards data scientists and their work, Quicksight is geared towards the masses. It's the tool that everyone will be looking at and using. So with that, we've talked a lot about AWS in general and what's available, but we haven't talked a whole lot about Quicksight, so let's kind of dive into that. So Amazon Quicksight is a fully managed serverless cloud business intelligence system. So they take care of all the management of all the infrastructure behind the scenes for you. So there's no servers for you to manage. So scaling is just a matter of just adding more users to the system. You don't have to worry about all the underlying infrastructure, adding servers, managing licenses across all those servers, managing operating system tweaks and all of that stuff. Amazon takes care of that for you. As mentioned, all you need to do is add users. You can scale very quickly up to that. I'm going to step to the other side. Pay for what you use. I'll get into the cost model a little bit in a few slides. But their pricing model is very interesting, and they have a combination of kind of what I'll call named user monthly fee models and usage models, which create some really great pricing scenarios. It's integrated. You can connect up to on-premise databases. You can connect up to AWS databases, files, all kinds of different things. Some new features that they've just recently released, ML Insights, is they've embedded some of the machine learning capabilities that have been developed by AWS and Amazon into Quicksight to provide some further rich capabilities on what you can do and how you can derive insights from the data. We'll talk about that in a little more detail. And embedding, so the ability to go from a scenario where you've got just a analytics portal that people log into and look at things to actually taking those analytics and embedding them in web pages and applications that you are building. So let's talk about a few of these things in specific. So you can connect to a wide variety of both on-premise and in-cloud data sources. They've got support for SaaS applications like Salesforce, ServiceNow, Jira, GitHub, all kinds of different ones. Third-party databases, MySQL, Postgres, Teradata that you can tap into, plus all the Amazon resources such as what we talked about, Redshift, S3, Athena, RDS, Aurora, and you can upload files to it as well. So JSON files, Presto files, CSV, Excel, you can ingest those files as well. So it's got a very rich set of data access capabilities. I mentioned SPICE earlier. SPICE stands for Super Fast Parallel In-Memory Calculation Engine. So there'll be a test on that later, so please remember that. But remember I talked about the three tiers of data, tier 3 being data lake-ish kind of stuff, tier 2 being the data warehouse kind of stuff. This is tier 1. So when you need high performance, you take and cache your data in SPICE. And SPICE provides very fast performance. It replicates the data so that the data is available in a number of locations. So it's highly available. It's very fast. It's designed for thousands of users doing multiple simultaneous queries. So we find ourselves we always start with the data warehouse, and then we take a look and say, is this fast enough? Can we tweak the data warehouse? If not, we move it into SPICE and leverage that capability as well. So in addition to pulling your data in and accelerating it, you can explore your data, you can collaborate with others. So it brings a number of tools. And like I said, Mike's going to be doing a demo of all of these things so you can see how easy it is to use. But with it, you can connect up to the data sources. You can create views of that data inside Quicksight. So you can say, okay, I want to bring these 3 tables together, but I only want to expose this data from those tables. And I want to secure this data set so that only certain people can look at it. You can create visuals. You can do analysis of that data. You can share your analyses with people and collaborate. I mentioned the ML. So they've got both machine learning and natural language processing capabilities built in that allow you to do some out-of-the-box interesting stuff, like anomaly detection, looking for outliers, identifying key business drivers, taking a look at what we call component analysis, right? You know, it's, oh, that for some reason sales peaked during that 1 month. What was behind that? Well, oh, we landed two big clients that were anomalous relative to the prior 12 months, right? And it'll actually come out and do that. It can generate narratives that can describe the data. So rather than just showing people a trend or a chart, the ML tools can actually generate a narrative that people can read and say, hey, sales were up by this much and here's why. So a lot of very interesting stuff, but what's really cool is you don't need to be a machine learning expert, you don't need to be a data scientist to use this. They've done the heavy work behind the scenes for you, and they allow you to say, I'd like to apply this to this set of data, and see what the machine learning comes back to me with. So it really kind of brings people to kind of the next level of insights, and this is something that we haven't seen the competitors really come forward with yet. Competitors are starting to play with natural language processing pieces, but the embedded ML, they're still relying on third parties to help bring that to their table. So you've done all this analysis, and that's really cool, but that only helps the people doing the analysis at this point. So what do you do next? So you can also publish your dashboards. So you can make it available. It's because it's an online tool. All your dashboards are available and interactive via web browsers. They also support mobile devices. They've got a very wide library of charts and tables and interactive features that you can use, giving people the ability to filter, drill down, select certain things. In addition to being able to publish all of these things to a broad audience and secure different dashboards so only certain people can use them, people can also subscribe to these dashboards via email. So you can actually have dashboards sent to you in your inbox and take a look at them. So if you say, I don't want to have to remember to go and log into Quicksight every day, but I want to be able to see that dashboard. And if I want to drill into it, be able to quickly get out to it, you can have that dashboard sent to you every day, every week, etc. We do that internally. We have customers that we provide reports to, and we just schedule email reports. Embedding allows you to take, as I mentioned before, your dashboards and put them inside your applications in a seamless experience. So what we're seeing in the last few years, a lot of companies are moving from just pure transactional applications to applications that provide insights back to them as well. People are coming back to us and saying, great, we built this, but we want to provide more information that our users and our customers can leverage as part of their actions here. So they're looking to embed analytics capabilities right into their applications. So through a number of embedding tools and back-end APIs and integration with single sign-on, Quicksight allows you to do that. So you can have a portal, you can actually integrate the portal's sign-on mechanisms all the way through to Quicksight so that you can carry that identity and security all the way through as well. So if a person logs in, Michael Krause, into the portal, I can actually then view dashboards and visualizations on the portal, but they're limited to what I'm allowed to see in Quicksight. So again, very, very cool features. This is another benefit that people don't talk about as much. Quicksight's available all over the world. It's right now in 10 major languages that it's available, so you can do localization. So if you need to support multiple languages in Quicksight, it's available in quite a number of different AWS regions across the world, including Singapore, Sydney, in the US, North Virginia, Oregon, Ohio, Dublin, Japan. So if you're taking and saying, okay, I have people all over the world that I need to be able to deliver these things to, you can actually host it locally within a region close to them, minimize latency, localize to their languages, and guess what? You didn't have to go and build out that infrastructure, right? Where today, if you use some other tools, you may have to go and build infrastructure, spin up servers in different regions to make that happen. So again, Amazon always likes to use the phrase of they take on the undifferentiated heavy lifting, and I completely agree with that. They've made our lives as consultants way easier because I don't have to go build servers a lot of these times. It also means I can get people from an idea to actual value much faster because we don't spend so much time and money on infrastructure. What about security and compliance, right? It's great that we can do all these things, but does now everybody have our data? And the answer is no. Quicksight provides a lot of mechanism for securing your data, and making sure it's available. So they do replication of the data, and they've got redundancy to make sure that it's up and available when you need it. But in addition to that, there's a lot of things you can do around auditing. So you can audit via CloudTrail. You can manage access both to the dashboards, the data sources, and the data itself through things like security controls on dashboards, security controls on data sources, but you can also apply row-level filtering based on identity. So you can actually go into a data set. We use this in multi-tenant data sets all the time. You can go in and say, oh, Michael Krause's logged in. I'm only going to show him Michael Krause's data. So based on who you are when you log in, we can actually limit what you've got. And I know they've got even more features coming down the road. With regard to...
So does it support column level security also?
At this point, no, but I believe it is in the works and should be coming out before long. What we can do, what we've done in the meantime, is on the data sources, because we can control the data sources. If we've got limited columns we want certain groups to see, we'll create a data source that only contains the columns they have, and we'll point the dashboard at those. But when something like column level comes out, it'll make that a lot easier, a little more dynamic. It has Active Directory integration and integration with various single sign-on platforms, so you can federate your identity across. But it's also HIPAA compliant, FedRAMP compliant, PCI, PSS, ISO, and SOC compliant. So if you are in an organization that needs any of these, we've got that ability. We're working with an organization right now in the healthcare space who needs the HIPAA compliance, and this allows us to work with Amazon to sign a BAA around that data, and we're using HIPAA compliant tools under the hood as well elsewhere. So very happy with what they've put together here. So I mentioned pricing. So it's very affordable. They were the first in the industry to come out with per session billing on this type of stuff. And what that means is they've got a concept of authors and readers. Authors are people who analyze and develop and publish. Readers are people who go and look at it and interact with the dashboards, right? So they charge 30 cents per 30-minute session for readers to a maximum of $5 a month per person. So if I go in and I look at a dashboard once a week, I go in, I log in, I look at my 5 dashboards, I do it every Monday morning. It takes me 20 minutes to go through them all. That's 4 sessions a month. It's $1.20 for me a month. Okay. On the other hand, Don Nutzman goes in and says, I want to look at these every day, and he pores over them multiple times a day, and he's always in there looking at these things and coming to my office and banging on my door and saying, why is this happening? Why is this happening? That's $5 a month for him. So the benefit is you can go to a lot of people and keep your price very low, but you also know where your cap is. So it's not something where it's like, well, Don goes in all the time. He ends up being $50 a month because he's in there all the time. They've got a cap on it. Authors are also not expensive. They charge $18 a month. There's no upfront cost, no complex capacity planning. We are partners with other visualization tools as well, and when people adopt them, we do a lot of upfront capacity planning with them. How many servers are you going to need? How many people are you going to be going to? Let's talk about how much memory you're going to have on these servers and things like that. Oftentimes they get a little bit freaked out by that.
What is it, authors?
Authors?
Yeah.
People who can create dashboards and do analysis work. So Quicksight's only been around for a couple of years. I think it was 2016. I think it was initially released. Was it even released? Was it only preview or was it GA released? Do you remember?
I feel like it's been a little over 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's been about right, just a little over 2 years. And they're making investments. And I'll be frank. We work with a lot of other analytics tools, and when Quicksight first came out and was generally available, I looked at it and I said, "This is a nice toy." But I've also been working with Amazon for almost a decade, and I know how quickly the nice toy they release becomes a imperative product, right? So just in the last 2 years, they've released over 160 new features on Quicksight. And I've seen their roadmap for 2019 and looking into 2020, and I can tell you there are a lot more features on their way, and they are pushing hard for parity with their top competitors in the marketplace. Not only parity, but leaping ahead in certain areas. So,
I have a question on
yes.
pricing. So how does that pricing tie back to you can embed the in applications or you can email reports out?
So the email reports are included as part of the regular subscription. The embedding in the applications, the same pricing applies for the readers, so 30 cents per session. If you are having people behind a login and you pass that identity on to Quicksight, they're treated just like any other Quicksight user. So if you have 1,000 customers and they come in, if each of them hits it once a month, you pay 30 cents for each of them that month, but to a max of $5. If you're dealing with anonymous customers or a large group, just like any of the companies, talk to AWS. They'll most likely negotiate something that's workable for you. Very good question. Thank you very much. So on that topic, let's talk about some usage scenarios and let's talk about what costs look like. So it's interesting to talk about that cost model in the abstract. What does it look like in reality? The idea here is just to give you some thoughts as to what things could look like. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list, nor is it meant to be, these are the only 3 ways, because I'm going to go through 3 of them, that you can deploy it. There are many, many different ways. This is just to start giving you an idea. So we're going to look at three simple use cases. A small business, very simple. They've got some static data. They want to do some analysis of it. They think, hey, let's use Amazon Quicksight to do that. A mid-sized database. They've got a mid-sized company. They've got a database that they're populating with data. They want to start doing some analysis of it. They don't even have a major data warehouse, just what I call a reporting database. We've been plowing some data into it. And a large business with a large amount of data, a lot of external customers, a lot of internal customers, et cetera. So we'll kind of walk through each of these and take a look at them. So the small business, they're thinking, let's just throw some files up on simple storage service and pull them into Quicksight and do some analysis with it. I've got maybe 10 gigs of data max. I've got a couple of people who are going to do some analysis and authoring. Probably maybe 10 people internally, 5 of whom are what I'll call light viewers. They maybe look at it 1 time a week. 5 of whom are what I'll call heavy viewers. They're looking at these things 5 to 10 times a week. And it's pretty much all internal staff. So when I look at it, we really got 2 primary moving parts here: Amazon Simple Storage Service, and Quicksight. The pricing, I'm only focusing on the Quicksight today, so if you want to talk to me afterwards about what the other stuff costs, I can help you with that. But just to kind of keep things focused, I'll be looking at Quicksight. So what does this look like cost-wise? So authors, remember, $18 an author, so we're looking at about $36 there. Internal viewers, these are people looking about 1 time a week, so we're looking at about 36 cents per session, 4 sessions a week. You're looking at $6 a month. Heavy viewers, we're looking at about 25. So you're looking at about $67 a month to support that. That's not a lot of money to have that capability, right? So let's take a look at this relative to their competitors for the same kind of spot. So we're looking at $67 a month, and I know the pricing on these competitors because I price them regularly for customers. So one competitor, we're looking at almost $500 a month for that same setup, and another customer, we're looking at about $650 a month. Annualized, we're looking at $800 versus almost $6,000 versus almost $8,000. So for a small business, the fact that I don't have to deal with servers, I don't have to deal with a lot of the infrastructure, I could just go in and pump my files up there and start working with them, and that kind of pricing, it really makes a big difference for people. If we take a look at midsize, so let's say we got about 0.5 terabyte of data. We're loading it into Amazon Aurora as kind of a data mart, doing some stuff with it. We got maybe 10 authors, people who are really going in and creating dashboards, about 100 users, 70 of them light users, 30 of them heavy. But we've also got some external customers. We've got about 50 of them who I've got something embedded in a portal and they're going and looking at it. And they're looking at it maybe 2 times a week per customer. So that's not an unreasonable kind of scenario. So let's look at it there. So now for authors, we're looking at about $180 a month because now we've got, about 10 of them. We're looking about $84 a month for the light internal users and $150 for the heavy ones. Remember, we're maxing out at that $5 limit. And we're looking at about $120 for the external viewers. So we're up to about $530 a month, $535 a month, right? Look at it in the competitive marketplace. Now we're looking at a little over 2,000 and I have to read mine. And just over 5,000 for the competitors to get into that same thing. And a lot of it has to do with how they tier their pricing, what their minimums are, and the fact that some of them you have to purchase entire server instances to make that happen. Annualize that, you're looking at $6,500 for Quicksight versus $28,000 and $61,000 a year. Again, significant budget difference. Now I'll say, the competitors can do some things that Quicksight doesn't. So you have to look at them and ask, what do you need, right? But what we're finding is more and more people for general use, Quicksight's going to meet their needs. All right, so let's take a look at the last one. We got a large business. We got 50 terabytes of data. They've got a data lake they're building on Amazon. They're using Amazon Redshift. They've got all this stuff going on. They've got 300 people internally across different functional areas who are analyzing and authoring data. We've got about 10,000 people internally using it, which again, we're doing kind of a 70-30 mix. 70% are light users. They're hitting it every once in a while. And about 30%, so 3,000 are heavy users. But they have 5,000 customers accessing it via the portal externally as well. So obviously prices are going to go up here. But we're still looking $5,400 a month for internal users, $8,400, I missed my comma, for internal viewers that are light users. Heavy users, we're looking at about $15,000 a month. Remember, $5 a month on those. And $12,000 for our customers. And so we're at about $40,000 a month, $41,000 a month on that one, right? Now, if we compare it to the competition out there, we're looking at $64,000 and $83,000 a month for those guys. Annualize it, you're looking at about $500,000 a year to support that scenario with Amazon Quicksight. You're looking at $750,000 a year for one competitor and almost $1 million a year for the other competitor. Now, in this scenario, now we're dealing with things like, how do we deal with high availability and things like that with those other customers. This does not take into account all the infrastructure management costs that you have to take on with them. This is just license fees. So, next steps. Wrapping up here, and then we'll move to the other room and let Mike do a demo. I recommend everybody give it a try, right? So, what's great? The risk is low. You can get one free author and up to 4 readers for 60 days for free. And many of the underlying services on Amazon have free tier offerings for up to a year, where if you kind of go with their lowest level solution database and things like that, you can load data in. You can basically run to end for free and try the whole thing out. If you need more than 60 days, I bet you could probably twist a salesperson's arm to make it happen, but I'll leave that to you guys.
Big question.
Yes?
How compatible with the different kinds of data, like regular SQL data, NoSQL data, big data?
You can analyze all of that stuff with it, just like you can with the competitors.
You can sync it
Yep.
with anything.
Yeah.
Techniques.
Yeah, there are some things that you might not be able to connect up to, just like many of the competitors have things they can't connect to yet. But there are mechanisms within Amazon to pull that data into a format where you can that work very well.
Even that process also supported by Amazon for free?
Some of them are. You'd have to go and look. But Charter can help you kind of take a look at that and price that out and see what a pilot or POC would take for that. Common use cases that we see people trialing it with, embedded analytics, self-service analytics on a data lake, large-scale traditional BI, so what happens if we kind of replace our current BI tools with something like Quicksight, machine data collection and analysis. We actually find ourselves doing more and more of that. And we're here to help. Charter Solutions, like I said earlier, we are an Amazon Advanced Consulting partner. We be more than happy to help you with planning and cost estimation around stuff. We help a lot of companies with pilot implementations, not just of Quicksight, but infrastructure behind it, like data lakes and things like that. We've got a lot of experience in data lake implementations, data warehouse implementations, real-time and time series data integration analysis, Quicksight data source and dashboard development. Because of our deep experience across a lot of tools, we know visualization best practices and how to build vizzes that are usable by the business. And we also do a lot with Amazon SageMaker and machine learning, both from a development and deployment perspective.